Okay. Whoops. So we had, I think, before Shavuos, we had quite a powerful class talking about the centrality of Torah learning and talking about how really all of the creation of the whole world is dependent on Torah learning, and the whole creation of the world is dependent on the Yidden learning Torah, and our personal creation is really dependent on how we absorb and integrate and relate to Torah. So in a way, Shavuos is quite an intense holiday, really, because we're receiving this download, and we spoke about the necessity for it to be new. And I don't know about you, but I don't know what that meant for you. But somehow, sometimes life brings us into situations where we feel that we need a different level of tools to handle what life is offering us or showing us, and we need to go deeper. So now it's the first class after Shavuos, and I guess we were trying to go deep before and trying to do our best, and so we hope that things in this new Tekufa, this new cycle, is on the next level. We, as it says in one of those beautiful psukim, that lo alecha hamlecha legmor, that it's not on us to complete the work. I sort of start wanting to sing my B'nai Akiva songs. It's not on us to complete the work, but nor are we free from beginning it. So we're going to try our best to go deeper, try our best to come up with a new level. And I guess what also makes it deeper or more is the way we use it to integrate into who we are and integrate the learning into how we behave. I went to a beautiful shir on Shavuos. I'm not even sure of the name of the man who gave the shir, but he was talking about the Torah personality. And he's a Rebbe in YU. He teaches, and he was at one of the local shuls in my neighborhood. And he spoke about the Torah personality, how when we learn Torah, hopefully that Torah is impacting us in a way that it doesn't just impact our thinking and our way of thinking, but of course it impacts our behavior as well. So saying, I'm just going to open a window because it's kind of very hot in here where I am. And okay, so saying, let's come into our post-Shavuos learning. And I'm sure also for some of you, even coming to the shir, there was a lot of Yontif and whatever, and here we are. It's still Isser Chag, but we're going to try our best. So the Hayom Yom for today is philosophical and invites us to try and start functioning on this more metaphysical level. And it is as follows. This physical world is a mixture of God's genunya, which means a meeting place in which Hashem unites with man, the choicest of all created beings, and ginas egos. So these are two phrases. The first one is a Aramaic phrase, which means bridal chamber, and it's a metaphor for this world. And in the teaching of the Midrash Rabbah, and we know that the Lubavitcher Rebbe's have drawn very strongly from this Midrash on the phrase Basi Lagani, I've come to my garden. So this physical world is a mixture of God's Genanya, a bridal chamber, or a meeting place in which God unites with man, the choicest of all created beings, and ginas egos, which is a garden of nut trees. So you can either think about this physical world as a bridal chamber in which Hashem is encountering his most favorite and most sophisticated creation, or you could think of it as a garden of nut trees with the numerical value of egos, which is a nut, equal to the numerical value of a chet, a sin, which is why we don't eat nuts on Rosh Hashanah, because we don't really want to have the connotation of a sin on Rosh Hashanah. And then it says, Hashem gives man free choice so that he can choose his own path in life. So there's a little commentary on this. So basically, whoever you are, and we've spoken about this so many times, we're being recreated at every minute. The world's being recreated at every minute, and we have the chance to be different in every minute. So this Hayom Yom is telling us that you could either look at this our world like a bridal chamber, a garden, which is kind of compared to a bridal chamber, or a garden of nut trees, where the connotation is not so positive because nuts are connected to the gematria, or the gematria of egos is equal to the gematria for chet. So it's either a place of connection and bonding with the Shekhinah and sort of letting your soul shine through, or it's a garden of nuts, a nut garden. So the two concepts are interrelated. Why is this world a place where a person can encounter Hashem intimately? Precisely because it's a place where there is the possibility for sin, and one must exercise free choice. And the free choice is every second an attitude, a choice to step beyond ourselves, or to kind of sink into ourselves. We have those choices at each moment. To explain, angels do not have free choice. They exist in a realm in which godliness is so manifest that they have no alternative but to fulfill his will. True, they do so with an unswerving commitment and with awesome degree of love and fear, but those feelings are not of their own making. They are a natural result of their spiritual perception. In other words, the heavenly realms and the creations of the heavenly realms can even be a little envious of humankind, because they're basking in a light, but they don't choose. And we are constantly experiencing and deciding our next revelation, or our next moment of experience based on our choice. And we either choosing to argue, or choosing to be down, or choosing to find someone to do chesed for, or choosing to walk the higher road. We constantly in a action of defining and deciding on our life and the quality of our life. In this world, by contrast, godliness is hidden to the point that a person can even oppose God's will. However, precisely because of this, when a person does choose to follow Hashem, he forges an intense bond with him in this world, and then it becomes God's bridal chamber. So either a garden of nuts or a bridal chamber. So that's the Hayom Yom for today. And I'm going to do one for tomorrow as well, because I like the one for tomorrow, and in fact, the next one. And then the next one is one of these Hayom Yoms that I really love, and it talks about Jewish Feng Shui. So what is Jewish Feng Shui? So Feng Shui is a system whereby you create certain energy in your home by the placement of objects in your home. You maybe need a red string, a plant. You place your windows opposite your furniture opposite your windows, or whatever. So what's Jewish Feng Shui? So how do you purify air in your atmosphere? How do you have good, clean air energetically in your environment? So this world, so now we're still trying to get away from the garden of nuts into the bridal chamber. And of course, if you're getting married, you want to make your bridal chamber very beautiful. You pay attention to the linens and the curtains and the carpets and whatever. So here's your air purification system. This world needs to have its air purified, and this can be accomplished only through the letters of the Torah that one recites. So that's pretty specific. And I guess it's not only the learning, but also the davening. These letters afford both universal and individual protection. The division of the 6 orders of the Mishnah fulfill the mandate to study Torah. Every single Mishnah that a person reviews, wherever he may be, lights up the connection between the Jewish people and Hashem. So that's why it's so important we say Pirkei Avos on Shabbos afternoon. It's actually the opportunity to say Mishnah, which is, it's not only learning Hashkafa, which is the point of view of how we're supposed to think about certain things, but it's also giving us a chance to learn Mishnah. Significantly, the word Mishnah shares the same letters as neshama, soul. So it's difficult to find the appropriate words to express the great benefit and the universal and individual protection that will be gained through the constant review of Mishnayot. There are no words to describe the great satisfaction that such review gives the creator of the world. So it doesn't actually speak in this particular teaching about learning, davening and Tehillim, speaking specifically about learning, and it speaks also about Mishnah. And I'm just mentioning that Pirkei Avos is a very nice Mishnah to learn because it's accessible. It talks about ethics. We can relate to it. So that's enabling us to purify the air and make this astounding connection. That this kind of learning lights up the connection between the Jewish people and Hashem. And so that was this, that's tonight and tomorrow. And I'll just do the last one because it's a beautiful analogy and a beautiful metaphor that the Alter Rebbe once gave the following answer to a chassid in the course of a yechidus. And he said that the Jewish people are called lamps. A lamp is comprised of a container, a wick, oil, and fire. However, we must first kindle the fire, and only then will it shine. And then, listen to this. You possess a good lamp, but you lack someone to kindle it. When one forcibly strikes the stone, the animal soul, a spark flies out, and that kindles the godly fire. So sometimes we have difficult tests, and it's almost like someone kicking our lamp and forcibly striking the way one would strike a stone, striking the animal soul. When you strike a stone, a spark flies out, and that lights the godly fire. So some Hasidic words to inspire you on your journey. And does anybody want to make any comments about any of those little mini teachings from the Hayom Yom? Yes, no, no, yes, no, 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 yes, no, 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 yes. Okay, I'm guessing that that's a no then. Okay, so coming into Parshas Naso, there's lots of different aspects to connect to, but there's a couple that I wanted to focus on specifically. And the first one is that in this week's Parsha, we speak about the Isha Sota, the Isha Sota. So who is the Isha Sota or Soter? She's somebody that is suspected of being unfaithful to her husband, and she's been warned not to be alone with another man, and she's still, there were still witnesses to see that she was alone with another man. And then she goes through a procedure where Hashem's actual name is written on a parchment, dissolved in water, and she drinks that water. And if she is in fact guilty of doing something that she wasn't supposed to do in private, then the water has such a power, it actually kind of causes her belly to rupture and she dies. And it's quite an intense thing. And the thing is, if she's not guilty and it was misconstrued, then her guilt was misconstrued, then from the process of drinking this water, she gets blessings. And if she couldn't have children before, she can have children. And hopefully she goes on to have a better life than she was heading.
David HaMelech's mother went through that, right?
David HaMelech?
Mother. And passed, right? She was accused, Ishai was her husband. And
Oh, you're right. There is something to. I remember that story. It's in the. Yeah, there is. She's right. Where he felt that he wasn't the true father or something because of the separation, and right, and then when they got back together, and something with the timing of when it was.
switched with his new wife and her, and
I know
Yeah, it
that
was something. Yeah. Mhm.
I definitely know that there was a story, and the story is that Yishai wasn't sure what the story was with the lineage of David. I don't know if, in fact, if there was
Right.
a suspicion that he was a mamzer and he was treated as such, but I don't know if anyone went through the sota situation, because then it would have been cleared up.
I think he doubted it anyway. Like, even though she passed the SOTA test, I don't know where I read it from. Like, I have to make sure it's.
I agree. I remember also. I totally remember learning that also.
Okay, so then that is
Mhm.
so we have that story in this week's parsha about the sota.
But
Then
how come it's always the woman?
I was just
I'm just gonna ask that. It's the woman that they are saying is like. Well, what about if it was the man?
I
But
think
if the
actually
man's not
that if she is found to be guilty and she has this experience, I think if I remember correctly, and I didn't learn it this year, so I can't say for sure, but I think that he has a parallel like experience on some level where he also is experiencing something quite horrible. I don't know. I can check right now what happens to him. Um, so let's just see if we can get an answer to that question.
in other words, the miss so
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
We can't hear you when you talk because it's very garbled. So if you trying to say something, we don't really hear you. Yeah.
the man
Maybe it's your microphone. Maybe it's not the phone. Maybe it's the microphone.
Yeah. According to the rabbis, if the woman is guilty, and it's mentioned in Gemara Sota, if the woman is guilty, then the man with whom she committed adultery will also die at the same time that she drinks the bitter waters. So it's not that she's the only one, that if in fact she's found guilty, then he, at the same time that she's having that in response to drinking of the waters, then he's also punished. And if she is innocent, then she's vindicated, and he gets no punishment. Okay, so and more a comment.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, we
really
can't
can't hear you. Sorry, it's really hard.
Sorry, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. I'm sorry. You could type your question onto the chat, and I can try and look for it and see what. Because when you talk, we don't hear what you're saying. So maybe type your question, and we'll try and hear it that way. Right. Because otherwise, it's difficult to hear. So, so after we have the incident of the Sota, so then following after that is the after the incident with the Sota is the story of the Nazir, and we know about that also, that the Nazir decides, possibly because of the impact of seeing or hearing about this whole Sota situation, he decides to put upon himself a chumrah in terms of his interaction with the physical world, and decides not to have his hair cut, decides not to have any grapes, any grape juice. And then we have a description of his neder, and then when he ceases to be a Nazir, when his Nazirus is terminated, how he needs to come and bring a korban. And then after that is the part that I really want to focus on, and that is the Birkas Kohanim, which I thought is so beautiful. And we went through Shavuos, and like all holidays, we get the opportunity to hear Birkas Kohanim. Of course, in Eretz Israel, they say it every day. I think they say it every day, or certainly every Shabbos, but I think also possibly every day, which is pretty amazing that we only get to say it on Yom Tov. But I thought it would be special to look at the Birkas Kohanim with the Rashis and with some commentaries and get more of a connection to that. So I'm going to share the screen.
Was everybody disconnected or just me?
Is everybody what?
Was everybody disconnected or just me? I was disconnected for a few minutes.
It's just you.
Oh,
yeah, I think
Sorry,
it might have been just you, because I think everybody else was okay.
No, somebody's very garbled, so you're right.
Yeah. So
is that's me again?
Sorry?
That's garbled.
Oh, no.
Tell her to take off the speaker.
What she's wearing.
Yeah, that might be it.
I turned it off and I'm on speaker, and
now
you sound better now. You sound better now, sorry.
Okay, so
maybe that's what it was.
What did you want to say before we go on? What did you want to say?
I wanted to say that I know that the Sota is publicly humiliated.
Yeah.
That she's put up in front of everyone, and they take off her head covering, and the whole thing is meant to publicly humiliate her.
Yes, but if she's because
the man's not publicly humiliated, and just in general, men are given this freedom during war and things like that they're allowed to do these types of things anyway, because it's too hard for them. Here the woman is, I know she's publicly humiliated. That's the whole thing about how do we know that women are supposed to cover their hair? It's because she's probably humiliated by uncovering her hair in front of all these people. She's watching this potion of Hashem's name, and yeah, it's like, why is she publicly humiliated when she's obviously doing something with someone else? Now I can't.
Well, I guess because she's probably maybe embarrassing. If she's doing it, embarrassing her husband that she's doing it. So
I mean,
like a negative
she's only going to be in the situation if she's been warned and she's going into a situation of yichud with someone where there were witnesses after she's been warned. So
I
there
didn't
is
think it was just yichud.
Say
I
again.
didn't think that it was. I didn't think that it was just yichud. That she's going into a position of being. I thought it was that she's being accused of being unfaithful with another man.
She is, because she was in a situation where she was seen to be in a
it could be
situation of
construed
yichud
that
with
maybe this
another
was
person.
happening, you know, and
I
wasn't.
mean, yichud is a very common thing in
But you're
today's
looking at it,
day
I
and
think, from a
time.
modern day perspective, as opposed to back then when also we were on a much higher level. And I think that's where also the discrepancy could lie. That's what you're looking at it from today's point of
I
view, as
never
opposed to.
ever learned that it was just yichud. I thought that she was being accused of being unfaithful.
Well, of course, that's the whole intention
Why would she
of
be
the
with the
whole
man?
thing. She's being accused because she was seen being in suspicious circumstances with someone who's not her husband. There has to be a basis for the suspicion. The basis for the suspicion is that she's been seen being in a compromising situation with witnesses, and that's what's leading there to be the suspicion of her faithfulness or her lack of faithfulness. Anyway, I do want to go on. I do want to go on. Okay.
Every time a woman's in a taxi with another man, it's yichud. The doors are closed and blah blah blah.
I'm not sure what your point is right now.
Just that yichud is it's very common. It's not whatever, forget it.
Sorry, the point here is it's a yichud that has led to suspicion of whether or not she's been faithful to her husband. It's not that she's in a situation that in today's world, or even in those days' world, was above suspicion. The whole point of it is that her circumstances were causing sufficient suspicion that this was a way to determine if in fact she was or wasn't guilty of what it looked very apparent to any.
Right, but it should be done in private. It should be done in private, because why should she have to be publicly humiliated if she's not guilty? It should be done in a private situation, and if she's guilty, so then she'll die. But
I don't even know how often this actually happened, because there's a lot of preconditions that have to be met for this to even have happened. And I think that they wouldn't have done so lightly, because they used Hashem's name and had to dissolve it in the water. So I think that they didn't do that, very easily. They had to have, good reason to do it. And we don't know how public the situation was. It says the man brings his wife to the Kohen, and it doesn't say here to what extent it was public or not. We know that it was whatever was happening was in front of the Kohen, but we don't know that it was in the public square or in front of everybody. It just says he has to bring her to the Kohen.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I had a rabbi once said to me, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Like, we know sort of a general idea of what yichud is, but there's a lot of specifics. There are a lot of things that are not considered yichud that might on the surface look like they are, and that there's good reason for it. For example, traveling in a car with an Uber driver in the daylight might be different from traveling in an Uber car with a driver alone at night. And there's a lot of other things as well. And really the answer to these questions is not to poo-poo yichud halachos and customs, but rather to ask a competent Rav or a teacher who really knows the topic. Because a lot of times when I've thought I knew the answer to something, especially like things in my kitchen, I'm pleasantly surprised by the answer. And I get told why, and it makes sense. I mean, sometimes it might not, but most of the time it makes sense. And it's like, I mean, Torah is not here to oppress people. Torah is here to give us guidelines for living a good and decent life. And I just want to throw that in there. Thank you.
That was well done. Well
Very
done.
excellent, Yakova.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so
I mean, whenever a man and a woman go on a date in a car, and it happens all the time.
I really want to move on.
Yeah,
I want to move on. I feel like we've given this enough time on this topic, so I want to move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so coming into the Birkas Kohanim, just to speak a little bit about this prayer and to say a few things about it, because it's has very few words, really. It's a very short prayer, and I wanted to spend a little time on it. And so I don't know if people have this custom in their families, but in some families, including my own, my husband blesses our children with this bracha every Friday night. It's not a traditionally Chabad custom per se, but sometimes mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers give their children this blessing on Friday night.
To be a Birkas Kohanim blessing?
Yeah, exactly the blessing that we're going to talk about tonight. And the idea is that the giving and receiving of blessings has great spiritual healing power. And the Kohanim were chosen to be the channel for Hashem's healing blessings. And when we come into synagogue, especially for us, we don't live in Eretz Israel, on Yom Tov, so here we hear it, and it says, let's just read the psukim first.
We do it every day in Israel.
Right.
Every day. Yeah. So
Sephardim do it every Shabbos.
So Daber el Aaron ve'el benav lemor ko tevarachu es bnei Israel amor lehem, that speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is how you should bless the Bnei Israel, and you should say to them. And then we can come back and go into the Rashi. But Yevarechecha Hashem ve'yishmarecha, may Hashem bless you and watch over you. Ya'er Hashem penav elecha ve'yichunecha, may Hashem shine his face to you and endow you with grace. Yisa Hashem panav elecha ve'yisem lecha shalom, may Hashem be partial towards you and grant you peace. So if we, first of all, when we come into it, there's first of all the amount of letters and words in each verse, but let's just come to that next. So the first verse, Yevarechecha Hashem ve'yishmarecha, has 3 words. Yevarechecha Hashem ve'yishmarecha. The second verse has 5 words. Ya'er Hashem penav elecha v'yichunecha. And the third line has 7 words. Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom. So each line is kind of getting a little bit longer, a little bit longer, a little bit longer. The middle word of the first line is Hashem. The middle word of the second line is panav, his face, while the middle word of the last line of the actual blessing, elecha, So it's Hashem peinav elecha. In other words, Hashem's face is upon you. So when we say this bracha, or when we have the capacity to listen to this bracha, receive this bracha, we are drawing Hashem's presence upon us, or I guess the Kohanim are bestowing Hashem's presence upon us. And we also say this, by the way, in a lot of our davening. It's parts of it is in our davening. And so Rabbi Yehuda says, it states, in this way shall you bless, that they must pronounce it in this language. And this is different from other blessings and other tefillot that can be said in English, if you English speaking, or if you Spanish in Spanish, or whatever language you speak. But this can only be said in Hebrew. So let's just see what Rashi says. Say to them, Amar lehem. So Rashi says, so everyone can hear it. In other words, say it very clearly. And then the word emor, do not bless them hastily, being confused by having to bless each individual as well as all the recipients collectively, but with concentration, blessing each person wholeheartedly with kavana, that it should be with a lot of kavana. And then if we go over it one blessing at a time, I think that there's a very beautiful explanation by Jonathan Sachs, and I think that I want to use that. So the start with Yevarechecha Hashem v'yishmarecha. So Rashi's telling us also that this is that your possessions be blessed, that you should have prosperity. So Rabbi Sachs makes this point that as Yidden, we don't say that in order to be a spiritual person, you have to renounce all your materialism and, you can't be worldly. Sometimes when I read the Jewish magazines like the Ami or the Mishpacha, I think maybe the Jewish people are going a little overboard in terms of the material.
Yes, yes.
Advertisements for golds and riches and diamonds and, absolutely top of the line foods and hotels and everything. It seems like a little over the top.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, our religion is a religion of integration, that we do use the material world and we do integrate the material world, and we are meant to be engaging that garden, that bridal chamber. It's not a monk's life of separation and asceticism, right? We want, and Hashem wants us to be blessed materially. That's what we want. But on the other hand, and the bracha kind of catches this nuance very well. On the other hand, material blessings can sometimes dull our sensitivities. So what does Rashi say? V'yishmarecha, that on the one hand, we should get the blessings, but on the other hand, we should be guarded in the way that we have those blessings. So let's just see. So first of all, the Rashi is a pshat, and then I'll give you the I guess the remes on the pshat, right? So let's look at the Rashi first, and then we'll go to the Jonathan Sachs. Does somebody want to read and watch over you? Because we got the material blessing, but then there's the added, and he should bless you and watch over you. So does somebody want to read that and watch over you?
I'll do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yakova.
And watch over you, that no bandits attack you to take your money as a result. For one who gives a present to his servant cannot protect it from everyone, Once robbers attack the recipient and take it from him, what further benefit does he have from this gift? But the Holy One, blessed be he both gives the gift and protects it. Many additional teachings are expounded on this verse in Sifrei.
Okay, so we've got the blessing, Yavarechecha, the material blessing, the abundance, but then we have the guarding as well. So Rashi says, if somebody gives a gift to his servant and then the servant is on the road and he's attacked, what's the good of the gift? So there's something that Hashem gives the gift, but he protects you once he's given you the gift. So Jonathan Sachs says that there's a problem with getting material blessings, right? And then it says in Devarim also, be careful that you don't forget Hashem when you eat and you're satisfied and you build fine houses and you settle down, when your herds and your flocks grow large and your silver and gold increase and you've multiplied, then what? Your heart will become proud and you'll forget Hashem who brought you out of Egypt, out of slavery. And you could say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hand has produced this wealth for me. So he says that when people become affluent, they lose the qualities that made them great in the beginning, right? They become less motivated. They think less of others. They begin to be deaf and blind to those in need. They can become, chas v'shalom, decadent. So that's what it says. Hashem protects you from your blessings, that they shouldn't become a curse, that he will protect you, that you should use the good that he's giving you in the right way, which is interesting and a nice subtlety in that. So I thought that was very beautiful. And then, okay, so that's the first blessing. Second blessing. Ya'er Hashem peinav elecha v'yichu necha. That may Hashem shine his face to you and endow you with grace. And Rabbi Sachs also says, he said, just because Christians use the word grace a lot, doesn't mean it's not really an essentially Jewish word. Chen is a Jewish word. So even though we value learning and we value knowledge and whatever, the idea that chen, like it says in Mishlei, let kindness and truth not leave you, bind them around your throat, inscribe them on a tablet of your heart, and then you will find grace, chen, and good intellect in the eyes of Hashem. Chen takes precedence over good intellect. So chen is kindness, and truth. And that's a very important quality. So we want leaders who have chen, loving kindness, compassion, chen, chesed, v'rachamim. And grace is a quality which sees the best in others and seeks the best for them. It's a combination of gentleness and generosity.
See, the word gentleness seems more accurate to me than kindness. It's almost like a receiving, a sweetness. I don't know.
I think you're right. It has even more of a refinement than just kindness. It's kindness with the
gentleness,
like what you're saying, with the gentleness or with the softness.
And receiving, like to me, like someone who's chen is a receiver and reflector of holiness. I don't know.
No, you're right. No, you're definitely right, because you kind of have to transcend. You're 100% right. I agree with you.
Yeah, I like also this, that grace is the quality which sees the best in others and seeks the best for others. So gentleness and generosity. And then he gives a beautiful explanation for this next piece, where it says, may he shine his face upon you. And he speaks about this in a beautiful way. and I want to just try and do justice to what he says. He says, imagine that you're in a crowd, and in the distance you see someone you recognize, and this person is well known. You met them once briefly. Did you make an impression on him? Does he even remember you? Does he know who you are? Briefly, your eyes touch, and from the distance, he smiles at you. And now you know he does remember you, and he knows who you are, and he's pleased that you've come to this event that's honoring him, or a dinner, or fundraising. He's the honoree or whatever. He's pleased that you're here. And by his eye contact and his smile, he communicates these things to you, and you are relieved and you lifted. You're at peace with yourself. You're not merely an anonymous face in the crowd. Your basic worth has in some way been affirmed. And that in human terms is the meaning of, may the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. So I thought that that was very beautiful, that this idea of turning, Hashem turning his face to you and giving you something of acknowledgement in that way.
What was the word after worth?
Say again?
What's the word after worth? It's so small on my phone. I just
Word after worth.
Well, I'll come to it again.
becomes known. Worth.
I'm not sure. Okay, so so when it says, so let's just go back, because I think I might have even skipped onto the third part. When it says, may Hashem shine his face to you and endow you with grace, Ya'er Hashem penav elecha v'yichunecha. May he make his face shine on you, meaning may his presence be evident in you. May he leave a visible trace of his being on the face you show to others. May God shine his face to you. May he make his face shine on you or in you. May he leave a visible trace of his being on the face that you show to others.
Someone who glows in the basket of Hashem. Like people have enlightenment, or
It's interesting because this rabbi on Shavuos, he spoke about the Torah personality. And, I don't often listen to teachers who come from the Musa school, but they're very concerned that when a person looks at you, if you're a Ben Torah or you're a Frum person, that the way you comport yourself, the way you hold yourself, the way you deal with others, that, this idea that you should be a Kiddush Hashem is very strong by them. And this idea of the Torah personality, that you learn Torah, so that should shine out of you. But the blessing is that may Hashem shine his face to you and endow you with grace. May his presence be evident in you. May he leave a visible trace of his being on the face you show to others. How is that face to be recognized? Not in severity, remoteness, or austerity, but in the gentle smile. And then Jonathan Sacks quotes Lincoln, in the gentle smile that speaks to what Lincoln called the better angels of our nature. The better angels of our nature. That's grace. So how does Rashi says, may Hashem show you an openly joyful countenance, one that shines like gold. Now, if you learn Tanya, as some of us have been blessed to do lately, we really learned very in depth that when you are in alignment with Hashem and you're not going against his will, you're getting energy from the Yud Kei Vav Kei. You're getting energy directly from Hashem's face, so to speak, from his name, from the energy coming directly from that Yud Kei Vav Kei. We then learned that if you don't do what Hashem wants, and if you're doing all kinds of mistakes and bad behaviors and everything, in the times of the temple, your life would have been cut short because you wouldn't be receiving this flow of energy from the Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, and by the age of 50 or 60, you wouldn't be able to sustain, your life force wouldn't be able to be sustained. But since we don't have a temple and the world has changed, we now get the light of Hashem in a way from, it says, from the Sitra Achra, which is sort of like the shadow side, not the face of Hashem so much, but the shadow side, which in Tanya we explored, and we said, really, it's through the step down process of the 10 Sfirot, or maybe we didn't even get there yet. We're going to get there soon. But instead of getting the energy directly from Hashem's face, we get it sort of through the Sfirot, through the process of Hishtalshelus. I know this is getting deep Chassidus, but we get a more diluted form of that energy. So in a way, it's not the face so much as the shadow of the face. So Tanya to that in a little more depth. So may Hashem shine his face to you. May he show you an openly joyful countenance, one that shines like gold. And may he grant you grace in the eyes of people. Okay, and then this part, it says here, may God be partial towards you and grant you peace, but V'yisa Hashem penav is really talking about this face, and it doesn't say that in the English translation. V'yisa Hashem penav, may Hashem turn his face towards you, like you're in the crowd and you see that honoree, that, important person at the party, turning and acknowledging that you're there, and sort of making you feel acknowledged and seen. Yisa Hashem penav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom. And then, because you feel that you're in this intimate relationship with Hashem, may he give you peace. And this is a very beautiful thing. Of course, peace is a wonderful quality to have, right? What does it mean? So first of all, when it says Yisa Hashem penav elecha, Hashem should turn his face to you, he shouldn't be angry with you, because the face is always his kindness, his countenance of direct blessing. So, and then what does it mean in terms of peace? Let's see what it says over there. Okay.
You have peace because if you listen and you follow Hashem's way, and you have the bitachon that, even though whatever bad happens or whatever, you take comfort in Hashem has a plan and whatever, you can live like a much calmer, in peaceful sync. Is that correct? Or?
Yes. Well, definitely you live in a sense of being in flow with the divine creator. You're not in conflict with Hashem, with the energy of Hashem, with the energy of the creator. So obviously you're going to be more peaceful. But then just the stress also that Hashem is granting you peace, that even though the Kohanim are the ones who articulating the blessing is really coming through Hashem. So the Kohanim were chosen to be the vehicles of Hashem's blessing, but they really just the conduits. The blessing is coming from Hashem, and the blessing is coming through the Kohanim. And why? Because their entire being was within the precincts of the holy. They were the intermediaries. But it also says that they had no share in the land, the Kohanim. They had no share in the land. They did have no farms, no fields, no businesses, no source of income. So the more the people get blessed by Hashem, the more trumas and mises, and the more the people have to give to the Kohanim.
It's a good investment.
So it's a good investment, exactly.
Think
That
about it. It's kind of like the
really,
essence of
Like a
tzedakah,
salesman.
because it's,
they
you know,
have
you
a,
give more and you get more. I mean, I'm not saying that's my motivation, but you know, you give more, and I've been living proof. If like it just, I don't know what happened. Like, oh, thank God, you know, something came in or a job came or I got something. I'm like, whoa, you know, and it's the same. It's
By
that
the grace of
concept.
God go I. Using
What?
grace. There, by the grace of God go I. There's the use of the word grace in English.
right, right.
It
So,
always sounded very Christian, but I've learned to appreciate the word more.
Yeah. Mhm.
right. So what he's saying here is that Rabbi Sachs is saying that just because they might have had interest, self-interest on some level, that's not a bad thing. That their true intention would be the well-being and the prosperity of the people, and that is not a bad thing because they were dependent on the welfare of all the people, so they could certainly bless the people with a full heart. And so if others were favored, then they would be favored as well. So, and then he speaks about it. But then Chana Bracha speaks about this also in a way, and she speaks about this quality of love, that there can't be blessing. The way it works in Judaism and the way it works in marriage and the way it works on Shabbos and the way it works in everything is this quality of love, which is also, by the way, not a Christian concept. They talk about it a lot, but it doesn't mean that we can't talk about love too. And the Nativot Shalom asks why the Kohanim blessing is introduced by who has sanctified us with the holiness of Aaron and commanded us to bless Israel with love. So let's see if
And the funny thing is, these Kohanim and Shul, like sometimes they're kids and sometimes there's just
Yeah.
so they're just born Kohanim.
Right.
right.
You know the famous story about the person who wanted to become a Kohen. He went up to the rabbi.
I remember something about it.
I'll pay you whatever you want. He says, I can't make you a Kohen. He says, I'll build you a new building. I can't make you a Kohen. And on and on and on. He says, why do you want to be a Kohen so badly? He said, because my father was one, my grandfather was
one. That's actually a great story. So anyway, he explains that Hashem created the entire world by the means of love. Only through love can the blesser bring down supernatural influences to the blessed. Hashem appointed Aaron the Kohen to be a spiritual conduit who blesses Israel because he had the attribute of love. Remember we said Aaron HaKohen, Ohev Shalom v'rodef Shalom. He loved peace and he pursued peace. The holiness of Aaron derives from this love, which is required in order to enable the giver to connect to the receiver. Hashem created humanity in order that we would receive pleasure from the light of the Shekhinah. It is only possible to receive this upper shefa, the spiritual influence, by means of a loving relationship between giver and receiver. This ability to receive from someone higher, such as a spiritual guide, is the source of blessing. So in a way, the Kohen comes from a place of love to bestow that blessing, to be a conduit of that blessing. And it's part of the blessing of the Birkas Kohanim, that the Kohanim sanctify us with the holiness and are commanded to bless Israel with love, ba'ahava. And so that is part of the whole thing as well, that there's
it's a beautiful blessing.
It is. It really, I
Beautiful.
love, yeah. I
And
love when it's Birkas Kohanim.
yeah, there's I just want to say one more thing, because we know that the Kohanim open their hands, and there's this thing with
Mhm.
10 fingers. So I'll just say one more thing, and then I'll end with that.
Can I ask a question before you end?
Yes. Do you want to ask the question now?
Yeah, it's a procedural question. So when they're doing the last three things and it says say this paragraph while they're chanting yeah, right? But
Right,
then
right,
but
right.
don't do it when it says the word, and I can't read that fast. So what happens if what do I do?
You do your best. You do your best.
Yeah.
Like always. You do
Do
your
you
best.
just stop reading it after that once they get to that word?
No one can say it that fast.
You could also just pray during that time. It's a very powerful time to just pray.
Right.
There's also
Um,
even I read it in a place. I think I read it in my sitter that it's like sort of frowned upon to even say that. It's like a controversial thing.
Yeah, I remember something like that in school also. Like I see like Connie and the Chabad wives, whatever they say it. But I also remember saying you're not supposed to say anything during Birkas Kohanim, except for the Yomeins.
Oh, well, I guess it's part of the siddur and part of the nusach, and I'm not going to tell you what you should say, what you shouldn't say, but the idea is there that what the words that we're saying are if we've had a bad dream, or we feel
Hmm.
like a person who's had a bad dream, or who feels that something in their dream came and made them anxious or nervous. The fact that at that time you've been given a chance to say, if I've had any kind of negative dream, let it be turned around,
Hmm.
guess is testimony to the power of that moment that is being, revealed, that even negative dreams, even dreams that seemed, almost prophetic in a negative way, should
Hmm.
their, negativity neutralized. But in terms of what you should do and how, and yes or no or what, I don't feel qualified to answer.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say this last thing, that there's a lot of tens, that the Birkas Kohanim includes both 10 revealed and 10 hidden blessings, and affects both the physical and the spiritual realms. Every person consists of 10 physical and 10 spiritual faculties. While the parents bestow the physical features, we receive our spiritual faculties directly from Hashem. And I've seen this before, and I've learned this before, but it's kind of cool. It says, from the fathers, we get the sinew, we get white parts. Now, obviously, one has to go back and learn this more deeply, what this means. But white parts, the sinews, the bones, the brain, the nails, the white of the eye. The mother gives the red parts, the skin, the flesh, the blood, the hair, the pupil of the eye. And then, so that's 10. And then Hashem bestows the 10 spiritual faculties. Now listen to this. The spirit, I guess ruach, the neshama, soul, the facial features, the vision of the eye, the hearing of the ear, the speech of the mouth, the walking of the legs, the da'as, the bina, and the seichel. And these 10 physical and spiritual faculties are blessed by the Kohen when he lifts his 10 fingers. From each of his fingers emanates the blessing for both the revealed and the hidden capacities of our being. So I just thought that I would share that. And so I want to end, and I have a little meditation here to integrate some of these teachings. And the meditation is from Chana Bracha Siegelbaum, because she has these beautiful sforim on the Pashiot, and then she offers meditation. So if you feel like it, if you'd like, I would invite you so we can integrate some of these beautiful teachings. to just make yourself comfortable wherever you are and breathe deeply. And you can close your eyes and bow your head slightly forward, opening yourself to become a vessel for receiving bracha. And take a deep breath in and exhale nice and slowly through your nostrils. And another deep breath in and a nice exhale. You have just opened yourself to receive the Torah on Sinai. So much light flowed downwards from above on Shavuot. Now we need proper vessels to keep this light and channel it into our daily life. The Kohanim blessing, which is always read the Shabbat following Shavuot, bestows upon us the spiritual vessels to hold all of these lights. Visualize the words Yevarechecha Hashem. May Hashem bless you. And while focusing on these words, envision Hashem's light flowing downward from heaven, landing upon your head. And now visualize the words Vayishmarecha, and guard you. Hashem will not only bless you, but also guard you so that your blessings will keep and remain within you. And then think about something specific in your life for which you need a lasting blessing, with which a humbly bowed head. Make your request to Hashem for his blessing. Now raise your head to upright position and visualize and say within your own mind, Ya'er Hashem penav elecha v'yichunecha. May Hashem shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. And imagine Hashem showing his beaming, smiling countenance to you, and that his presence is at your side. And allow yourself to envision Hashem's light facing you, and envision this great light in front of you. Feel it entering your eyes, your nose, and your mouth with delicious warmth. And then visualize the words, Yisa Hashem penav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom. May Hashem lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Can you connect with ultimate shalom and feel at peace with yourself and your body? Allow yourself to feel at peace with your surroundings. And imagine Hashem's light emanating from below, softly caressing your feet, ankles, calves, and knees. And tune into the gentle light rising to your thighs, pelvis, stomach, and torso, also from the back. And imagine the feeling of the light finally reaching your shoulders, neck, and head, enveloping your entire being with soft, serene peacefulness. And remain with this feeling as long as you want before opening your eyes and returning to the rest of your evening with renewed light and vigor. So,
Me think to say that the person who walked me through becoming firm passed away this week, and I owe her such a hot car's toe. Like, she did that for me. You know, I was such a tough sell, you know, and I want to say that she should have an aliyah neshama.
You want to say her name?
I don't know her. She wasn't sick, so I wasn't davening for her, but her English name was Miriam Pels. From Neve. She was connected to Neve.
Well, may her neshama have an aliyah.
Amen. I should ask her for her name.
Amen.
Now it's her father's name. Yeah. What a beautiful class and a beautiful.
This was absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all. And by
Thank
the way,
you.
I've put some new ways of joining the retreat up on the link. Some work, trade exchange, and camping on the camping situation. What are they called? The platforms. So there are other ways you can join. You can always talk to me if you need special arrangements. And have a good night.
You too. Have a great night.
Beautiful Shabbos.
Everybody, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All
Good
the
night.
best.
Thanks
Shabbos,
again.
Shabbos is coming again. Well,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, all the best. Thank you
All the
for
best. Yeah.
joining.
Bye, Yehovah. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.